You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Nathan, it's June. Do you know what that means?
Yes, it's Pride Month.
Yes. Hey, gay. We are on our break, but we want to make sure that we're still sharing stories of amazing people in history, especially those from the LGBTQ community this month. And today, from behind the Patreon paywall, we are going to be talking about the mysterious life and times of Ludwig of Bavaria.
So enjoy.
Cheers, bitches. Oh, and hey, Nathan, do we say the F word on this a lot?
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, we do.
Oh.
So if you don't like that, don't listen. Cheers, bitches. Hi, this is Katy.
And this is Nathan.
And you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about women in history. All right, so we're doing Elizabeth of Austria, aka CC.
CC's Pizza.
CC's Pizza Party Anywhere. And we're going to talk today about her very dear friend and cousin, Ludwig of Bavaria.
Who just so happened to be a king, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a little bit of a character. It was really fun to research this one.
Yeah, definitely. So
Let's just dive
in.
Ludwig was born on August 24th, 1845 at Nymphenburg Palace. He was the son of Maximilian II of Bavaria and his wife, Princess Maria of Prussia.
His birth certificate was actually written to say August 25th, because that would give him the same birthday as his namesake, his grandfather, Ludwig I.
I found that so funny. They were like, oh, he's born close enough. So his grandfather, Ludwig I, was oddly very similar in his behavior and his attitude. So I guess it worked out for him to say that he was born on the same day. They're like, They're the same sign, they're the same person, and they kind of were.
Yeah.
So,
same name. It's all good.
They both liked the arts. They were interested in pursuing their own creative interests, and they weren't actually wanting to king. They weren't into that whole kinging thing.
Opposite of Cece's husband, who was like such a boner for being king. Mm-hmm. These guys, they weren't really jazzed about it.
No. And the granddad, Ludwig I, his godparents were Louis XVI, and Ludwig really picked up on that bourbon family.
Yeah.
He loved that bourbon family.
I like bourbon.
Yeah, me too.
We have that in common.
So later in life, he would actually mold himself to be more like Louis XIV. He was also very obsessed with Marie Antoinette.
Because she's fabulous.
Samesies.
Spoiler alert.
So
he might not be the straightest.
No, maybe not. So as a child, Ludwig grew up with his parents. And his parents, I mean, that sounds like all happy and yay, but his parents really weren't fond of one another.
Well, it was an arranged royal marriage.
Exactly. And what's even sadder is they weren't even into their own children. Like, they were very neglectful. He called his own mother his predecessor's consort.
I know. Like, what?
That is so cold. But as a child, he's calling her that. So she obviously is to blame for this.
She would carve out maybe like an hour a week to spend with her children. And then like once that hour was over, she was like, no one can ever say I didn't spend time with my children.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe not the best mother in the world.
Also, I was listening to an episode on him with Stuff You Missed in History class, and they said that his mom bragged about having never read a book in her life.
That's not something to brag about.
Only peasants read.
And like any kid that has bad parents, that kid ends up like kind of being detached and very dissociated with things. So he would often just retreat into his own imagination and just think about the whimsical things in life. And he actually grew up in, I'm going to butcher these names. So guys, if you know the exact pronunciation, sorry. Hohenschwangau Castle.
Can't be how it's said.
No.
Can we just call it the Hoe Castle?
The Hoe Castle.
He grew up in the Hoe Castle.
This was a modern castle that was built by his father and was modeled after medieval castles.
Which is such a weird trend.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously Ludwig felt bougie AF in this castle because, duh. And this is
because castle.
Yeah, and this is how he got his obsession with the medieval time period.
Fairy tales, legends, chivalry, like all of that. That was like his shit.
Yeah, they had these extravagant murals painted on the walls depicting old Germanic mythology. Mm-hmm. And the castles were just like tucked away in this beautiful scenic mountain area. So this really began his obsession with being out in the mountains.
Where did the Sound of Music take place in?
Austria.
Oh, Austria.
I believe it was Austria.
So not too far.
Yeah, same sort of scenery.
Because I just think of him like on that first scene of the Sound of Music. And she's just spinning and there's the mountains behind her.
It's the same area.
I'm just imagining him, except like, me and my imaginary friends are alive to the sound of Wagner.
Yep, and that's exactly where he got his obsession with that, was the mountains and mythology dunzo.
Yes.
So, baby Ludwig is not only isolated away from his parents in Hoe Castle, which in German really means the High Swan Castle. Oh. And he earned...
Why is the swan high?
I don't know.
Who gave the swan the edibles? That's what I want to know.
So he actually earned his nickname, the Swan King, from this and some other things later on. That we'll get into.
And from being super gay. Yes.
Yeah, and for being super gay.
Yes.
So he had some hardcore fucking tutors, and he would wake up in the morning and they'd be like, "Hey, guess what? You're king.
You're gonna be king.
You're gonna be king." And when I say his tutors were hardcore, like he woke up at 6 a.m. in the morning and did not finish studying until 9 p.m. at night.
So I know, like you would...
13 hours...
Many hours.
15 hours.
You would think that would make someone be so strict with their... But like, just that's not how his brain worked. His brain wasn't business-like, you know
No,
what I mean?
it wasn't. And
it was like, he was smart and he knew how to study, but... his brain just didn't work the way a king's brain should work.
And so he's being forced to do all this and be very strict. And so this is what, again, makes him kind of become this eccentric character.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a normal
childhood. And also
childhood.
genetics.
Yeah, and genetics. Mm-hmm. But he didn't have a normal childhood, didn't get to go outside that much. I read that he would go outside at 9 p.m., because that's whenever he got done, and he would, like, sled ride in the dark. That's very...
Yeah.
You know, that can make you a very isolated type of person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he would have a really strict workout regime, so I'm sure this is kind of where him and Cece really...
Because they both loved horseback riding.
Spending time out in the mountains, going walking.
And he also took swimming lessons. He was a really good swimmer.
Yep. And one of his tutors, one of those strict-ass tutors, they ended up being able to quote him, and this quote kind of follows him, and if you read about him, this quote is everywhere. It says, "I wish to remain an eternal enigma to myself and others." So he's just...
That is, like, he's a little kid when he says that?
Yeah. Like, he just wants to be not mainstream. He's not mainstream.
He's not mainstream.
No, fuck that.
Unfortunately, being king is super mainstream.
And like we said, this strict upbringing, his parents not being around that much, made him into this eccentric character that history, unfortunately, I didn't want to say this, but this is how he is referred to by the dicks. Mad. He was mad.
I don't like using the word crazy. I don't like using the word mad. Well, I mean, we use the word crazy all the time, but like when it actually comes to somebody with possible like...
a degrading term.
It's a degrading term. Like, we're going to be like, that crazy bitch. But when it comes to somebody that actually probably had mental problems, I don't like using the word crazy.
Agreed.
So when we use it, or the term mad, we're quoting history.
Yes, and I honestly don't think he was as mad as everybody painted him out to be.
I think maybe he had, like, some form of depression or something.
Yeah, I think we'll get into that. I think
he
had a little bit of something.
Like everybody else in his family.
Yeah. Right.
Remember, his aunt... like, not even a great aunt, just like his father's sister was the one that thought she had swallowed a glass piano. So, yeah, this family is not...
staple. So, on March 20th, 1848, the current king, Ludwig I, abdicated the throne because everyone was thinking, oh, God, this guy is crazy as fuck. And he was a little crazy.
He was a little... nutty.
He abdicated the throne, and that made baby Ludwig's dad, the king, Max.
Yeah.
And that subsequently put baby Ludwig in line for the throne.
Yes.
He would be the crown prince at that point. His father appointed fairly liberal ministers to help him rule, which is kind of in line with his family. I feel like his family was pretty liberal. They invested in arts, education.
As compared to some other monarchs.
Oh,
at the
yes.
time. Yeah.
I mean,
they're still monarchs, but...
Yeah, back then, liberal was still a little bit conservative.
And I think Bavaria at this point, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, Bavaria at this point wasn't an absolute monarch. Like, they had not Congress, like they had a parliament.
Yeah. He had ministers that could overthrow him, and he could overthrow them. So it was a balance of power. So he invested in the arts, education. He really promoted the Bavarian culture. And the reason he did that was to kind of like keep his group's nationality separate from the Prussians. Because those fucking Prussians, they're like always trying to invade them, always trying to take them down.
Trying to unite Germany.
Oh, fuck you. So King Max wasn't really all that bad at kinging. He
just didn't want to do it, though.
No, he didn't want to do it.
Heavy as the head that wears the crown, he was like, fuck it. Somebody's got to do it. I guess it's me.
Yeah, he did a good job. Hated it, but that doesn't make him a good father. Fuck that.
Yeah, no.
Max wasn't like his father. He was pretty good at governing. He put that extravagance to the side. He didn't like having to do it, but he was still good at kinging.
Yeah.
He eased the tensions between Austria and Bavaria. He basically just went to him and was like, hey, I hate Prussia. You hate Prussia.
Let's hate Prussia together.
Get along.
Let's do it together.
He's good at playing both sides.
Yeah.
So he was traveling his kingdom, visiting Italy, Greece, and this is why he was spending a lot of time away from his family and was never really around baby Ludwig.
Yeah.
So this made baby Ludwig just dive into the arts and just keep going with his eccentric shit. He would play dress up, he would perform the operas of Richard Wagner, and read poetry, and guys, when we mentioned Richard Wagner, like, he was obsessed.
He was a Wagner stan to the point of, I feel like obsession's not even
No, it's not strong enough of a word. I get liking Wagner's music because as a choir boy, like...
And being a fan.
I can relate, yeah. But he was, like, overboard. And he related to Wagner because Wagner's inspirations were Germanic and Norse mythology.
And it was very extra.
Yeah, very pro-nationalism and being your own independent state, and that was his jam. So
also being extra.
Yeah,
was also his jam.
Was also his jam. He was introduced to Wagner at 13 and just fell in love from there on out. Wagner, if you don't know him and know his music, it's very dramatic. Like Katie was saying, extra. Ride of the Valkyries. That one.
What is that? Kill the rabbit, kill the wabbit. Yeah.
And also...
Sorry, anybody that didn't watch Looney Tunes growing up.
He did the wedding march. Here comes the bride, all dressed in white.
I did not walk to that to my wedding.
Well, that's good because guess what? Wagner is anti-Semitic. So maybe that's a good thing that you didn't do
kind of like a weird fuckboy.
Yeah.
Queen's Podcast, official statement on Wagner. Weird anti-Semitic fuckboy.
Yep, that's exactly kind of it. So Ludwig's a very theatrical, very extra kind of gal. He'd rather be putting on a play out in the woods than learning how to rule. If he wouldn't have been a royal, I'm like 1,000% sure he would have been an artist, a musician, something like that.
I think he would have been a poet.
A poet, yeah. Very right-brained.
Well, because remember we mentioned it in the CC episode for like a hot second. They would write poetry to each other all the time, like starting from a young age. So,
He just had that brain.
Yeah.
That very artsy
And
brain.
he was so smart. Like we said, with all the schooling, he was so smart.
So his magical disappearing dad, King Max, ends up appointing a guy named Prince Paul as a junior lieutenant and assigns him to be the orderly officer for Ludwig. So basically just looking after Ludwig.
Yeah.
So guess who also loved the theater?
Was it Prince Paul?
Guess who also likes Wagner?
Was it Prince Paul?
Guess who just so happened to have a beautiful singing voice and would sing for Ludwig all the time?
Prince Paul?
You guessed it! They clicked. And he would later nickname him faithful Friedrich.
Aww.
I don't know why Friedrich, but... Okay.
Frederick?
Yeah,
Maybe it's his middle name? I don't
fucking know. Fuck it. I think I'm in love with him, too. So 6 months after meeting Paul, King Max ends up dying of a 3-day illness. Some people thought it was sepsis. Some people said it was syphilis.
Wait, was it syphilis?
Christmas in June. So Dad's dead. He's all of 18 when this happens. I was just getting into clubs at that time, so I couldn't even imagine what the...
Well, I'd been getting into clubs for several years by then because boobs.
Truth.
Because boobs.
Truth.
They were like, can I see your ID? And I was like, boobs? And they're like, good point. Come on in. Hey, Queens, it's Katy. Are you tired of hormone-related struggles messing up your day? Meet Hormone Harmony. Whether it's mood swings, bloating, or just kind of feeling off, Hormone Harmony has you covered. Okay, but what is it? Hormone Harmony is a formula developed by Happy Mammoth, a supplement company dedicated to making women's lives easier. Hormone Harmony contains science-backed herbal extracts called adaptogens. Now, here's the beauty about adaptogens. They help the body adapt to any stressors, like chaotic hormonal changes that happen naturally throughout a woman's life. Picture waking up rejuvenated, breezing through your day without energy slumps, and waving goodbye to pesky PMS symptoms. Happy Mammoth has so many really cool products. I've actually just placed an order for a bottle of their Deep Sleep Mode, so I'll let you know how that works later. So, want to go on this journey with me? For a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire order at happymammoth.com with the code QUEENS at checkout. That's happymammoth.com with the code QUEENS.
Hello everyone, Stakuyi here.
And I'm Gabby.
And we are the hosts of History of Everything, a podcast which you can probably guess by the name is, well, it's about everything. Do you want to know why people thought potatoes were evil and would give you syphilis? Are you curious about all the stories of the terrible and stupid ways that people have kicked the bucket over the years? Do you want to hear tales about all of the different badasses of history and the lives that they had brought to life? Well, if so, then look no further. History of Everything is just the right podcast for you. It's available on Spotify, Pandora, and anywhere else that you get your podcast from. Join us for some fun and just see how weird and wacky history can be.
So in 1864, Ludwig officially ascends the throne and appoints Paul his aide-de-camp, which basically is his personal assistant.
Oh.
So, taking care of that ass. So in a letter Ludwig wrote to Paul, shortly after, it said, "Let me assure you that I shall always foster with the same sincerity the feelings of gratefulness and faithful love which I bear for you in my heart. Remember with love, your faithful Ludwig."
Aww.
Come on. Exactly. And Prince Paul would also write, sappy letters back, which basically said that, "Oh, Ludwig, you make me the happiest guy on earth, and when you're not here, I just can't stand it." And when his heart beats, and when he sees his light go on in his window...
Aww.
His heart just races whenever he sees Ludwig's light go on. Oh my God.
Do you think that Prince Paul actually felt that way for Ludwig, or was just fuckboying him because he was the king?
See, that's up for debate.
Yeah.
Because it could be, I don't want to say an Anne Boleyn-esque, but it's the king is after you.
Yeah, and what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to turn it down? No.
Yeah.
You get in a lot of trouble, you die.
Yeah.
So I genuinely think that Ludwig had a boner for Prince Paul. Obviously. And maybe vice versa. It's all up to debate, but all of Munich thinks they're boning.
All of Munich is did you see them walking around? Oh, what a surprise. He's with Prince Paul.
There's no concrete evidence that they ever boned, but Ludwig would write in his diaries about how he struggled with his sexuality because it was his strict Catholic upbringing, the fact that he had to be a king and bear children. That's the whole sort of thing. I can sort of relate to that.
He's not the first gay king in history that just sucked it up and had some kids with a wife, though. But as I could see how, because he was raised so strictly Catholic, I could see how that would be such a huge... I mean, it's still a huge struggle for a lot of people today.
And we're talking 100 years ago, or 150 years ago.
Yeah.
The reason that we don't have these diaries anymore is because they all got destroyed in World War II. And it's like, oh my God, we would have so much more
fucking
knowledge.
World War II.
Like, genocide sucks.
Yes.
So, like I'm saying, whether or not there was any sexual relationship, it's still debatable. But, like, maybe Paul was just entertaining him, like Anne Boleyn.
And also, back then, people just wrote more romantically to each other. You'd write a letter to your sister, and you'd be like, my heart yearns to see you, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe we're putting our own modern twist on it.
Yeah, because in modern times we were like, booty call, question mark?
Yeah. But it seems to cross a little bit of a line with him and Prince Paul, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
From just, like, being friendly
to being a little overly friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they're around each other all the time, and you're writing these sort of letters to each other. Yeah. He's got his handsome little Prince Paul by his side now, and you know what? It just isn't gay enough.
Nope.
It needs to get gayer.
We need to turn this gay up to 11.
Yes. So he sends a text out to Richard Wagner, and he's like, hey, yo, you should come live in Munich, because I need some opera.
And I'm obsessed with you, but I'm not going to tell you that yet.
And Wagner, who's broke as fuck, is like, oh, thank God.
Wagner was living in Switzerland because the debt collectors were about to send him to jail in Bavaria. So he, like, fucked off to Switzerland. People are still fucking off to Switzerland and they're in trouble. So that's where you go when you're like rich but in trouble. You fuck off to Switzerland.
And so he needed some money. Obviously, he's going to be like, okay, Ludwig, right on next to you. So Wagner goes to Munich. And now that he's in Munich, Munich has now become this capital for music.
Yeah.
Kind of like Nashville.
Okay. I can get into it. This didn't last long because everyone was annoyed at how much Ludwig was spending on Wagner. Wagner was like, I need my own mansion. I can't just be composing in your palace. I need my own palace.
Oh, that theater that you have, that's really nice. It's not good enough.
We need a new theater. And just like, I mean, Wagner could have been like, I need you to build me a new moon. And Ludwig would have been like, let's moon committee. Come on. You know, like, he was so wrapped around Wagner's little finger.
Yep. And the commoners saw this, and they caused such an uprising that Wagner had to go.
He was going broke. Like, he was making the country go in debt to pay for his favorite.
He was already, Wagner was already in debt.
Yeah.
And then now he's getting Ludwig's country in debt, so they're like, no, Wagner's got to go. Wagner ended up swindling, Ludwig would continue even though they separated. Ludwig would support him till, like, the day he died. And
though when Ludwig found out that Wagner had a pregnant fiancée, he lost his chill.
Yeah, but Wagner would go on to, like, swindle a shitload of money from Ludwig.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And Ludwig was kind of cool with it, though. Like we said, he was wrapped around his fucking finger. Once Ludwig contributed to Wagner, they did an opera, Tannhauser, and Ludwig just rides on in on a mechanical swan at the beginning of the story. Yeah. And another reason why it's called the Swan King.
Another point that I want to make, whenever he was growing up, he was tucked away at this castle or whatever, so everyone knew, Ludwig's son of Maximilian. But in these first couple of years, when he's king, is when the public really starts seeing him. Mm-hmm. And
because he was, like, isolated in a castle in the middle of nowhere.
Beautiful.
Oh, okay, guys, stop what you're doing. Look up Ludwig II. Like,
and even if you don't think he's good looking, you have to admit he is captivating looking. Like,
yes,
he is interesting to look at. And all the photos of him are going to be in black and white, but in the paintings, all his eyes are always like this ice blue. Mm-hmm. Like, it took a lot to make the country get annoyed with him because they were so enamored with him.
Yeah, it was like, and guys, whenever you look up a picture, all you have to do is like get rid of their middle part. Like they all have middle parts. All the guys from this era have middle parts, and I'm like, I just want to give you a makeover.
Just give him a little tussled, some mousse,
and he'll be so handsome.
Put him in some. You know what? No, he can stay in what he's wearing. That's fine. Military uniform's hot.
That's hot. That's hot. Sorry, we're getting a little flustered here. I'm getting a little warm.
Do you need me to turn the fan
No,
off?
I'm sorry. I'm getting hot for Ludwig.
It really would have taken a lot of over-the-top activity on his part to make the public like say anything against him because they were just enamored and like fascinated with him from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I think they did is they saw Wagner just had him wrapped around his finger. And then obviously after that, there's rumors that there's a possible relationship between them that start going out in the public. And, you know, they boned. They fucked. I think they did.
I don't know if I think that they fucked. I think Wagner would have fucked him, even though I don't think Wagner was gay at all.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think Wagner was gay at all. I think he was manipulative.
That's why I think he did it.
And so,
he was manipulative.
I don't know. The only reason I'm like, maybe they didn't actually is because Wagner, I feel like, could have easily been like, oh no, but we're Catholic, you know, to get out of it.
To get out of it.
You know, he would have been like, oh, you're right. Oh, fuck, you know. I mean, if somebody that wanted to sleep with you and you didn't want to sleep with, and you knew that that was their, like, soft spot, wouldn't you do the same thing, like, too?
Like, well, escape your exit.
Yeah, but he still wants the money. So maybe he did everything but... And maybe they did fuck. I think Wagner would have fucked to.
I think they did.
To get whatever.
I think it was like for a money thing.
This is why I'm saying Wagner's such a fuckboy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they had some pretty fucking steamy little gay-esque love letters. And guess who just so happened to be the messenger between them? Prince Paul.
Oh, poor Prince Paul.
I know, he's caught in the middle.
He's like, oh, you're on to the next one? What about us?
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Wagner would later write some really homoerotic stuff. He would talk about man-to-man soldier Spartan sex.
Well, no, the Spartans did sleep with, I mean, that's a thing.
And that's why I think that their relationship maybe had gotten physical, just because Wagner wanted to use Ludwig for his money.
Okay, yeah.
Basically.
Fuck
like
boy.
A sugar daddy, fuck boy sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So, Ludwig isn't obviously the traditional marrying type of guy. But as we've discussed before, if you're king, you gotta have a wife. ASAP.
You gotta make some babies.
Babies!
Was it Edward II that we talked about, and the Queen Isabella of France?
Yeah, I think
he was gay as a picnic basket. He still made some babies.
Gay as a picnic basket. I don't think I've heard that.
You've never heard that phrase before? No. Aren't picnic baskets are very happy. They're very gay.
And luckily for Ludwig, he ended up moving on from Prince Paul at this point because Prince Paul got engaged.
Yes.
And they never kept in touch, which makes me think that maybe
no, yeah, like, because your friend, like, if any of my platonic friends got engaged, that wouldn't be a reason that I would quit talking to them.
Exactly.
But, like, you know... I don't still talk to very many of my exes, you know.
Exactly,
like,
exactly. Yeah. Ludwig just tries to go on the rebound and play the straight card. So he gets engaged to Duchess Sophie Charlotte, which is Cece's younger sister.
Because, if nothing else, this family is consistent with marrying their cousins.
Yay!
Cece's sister, Sophie. She's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. She's beautiful.
Very pretty.
The whole family's beautiful.
And there are plenty of gay kings that have married women, slept with her once or twice to get an heir and a spare.
And then they're done.
And then you're done. Nobody asks any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, he literally went on to write Sophie that the basis of their relationship was Wagner. Like, oh my god, boy, you are so obsessed with Wagner.
Like, my husband and I both really like the band Vampire Weekend.
Yes.
But if he ever said that he thought that was the basis of our relationship...
You'd be like, what the fuck?
I think I'd be a little worried.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Obviously, if Wagner's all you can talk about, maybe the relationship's not going to go so far.
Well, they can also talk about their shared grandparents. All the family reunions.
Because... that's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
They've got to have more they can talk about.
So guess what? This relationship really didn't fucking work out. Ludwig would just keep on postponing the wedding. He just put it off so long and kept putting it off and putting it off that Cece's dad was like, hey, you're either going to marry Sophie or
shit or get off the pot, dude.
Yeah, shit or get off the pot. And he was like, all right, I'm getting off the pot.
His official statement was that there was just... Basically said, I just don't love her. And it's like, there's no basis of love. Or something like that.
I think he was fucking his master of horses.
So she married a dude named Prince Ferdinand. And he is... he's... basically French royalty. I don't know that he was ever a king, but no, she married a K. Yeah, she did just fine.
She did just fine, and honestly, it's a good thing because later on, Ludwig would literally be like, go to Wagner and be like, I will give up all of my titles and all of my money and everything for you, Wagner. So, I mean, do you really want to be with a guy like that?
No, do not.
No,
not so much.
Yeah, because at this time, Ludwig is hooking up with, actors, servants, poets. Like,
allegedly.
Allegedly, but yeah. The political climate during Ludwig's first years as king was a little bit rocky, to say the least. In 1866, the 7 Weeks' War broke out. And long story short, because we're not into all that war digging and shit, Bavaria aligned itself with Austria. And they both got defeated by the Prussian forces. So Bavaria had to sign a treaty to be like, okay, we won't fight alongside Australia if Austria.
Yep.
If Prussia, you tell us not to. So they were basically Prussia's bitch boy at that point.
Yeah, like he lost so much of his own power to Prussia after that.
So in 1870, Prussia tried to expand its boundaries and France fought back. And France was afraid Prussia was deliberately starting this war to make sure that they could call the Bavarian forces and unite Germany underneath one flag.
Yeah.
Ludwig was forced at this point to sign the Kaiser Brief in December of 1870 that gave up Bavaria's independence altogether and declared the King of Prussia as emperor. So basically he bowed to the king. He bent the knee to
He bent the knee, who then became known as the Kaiser.
Bavaria still maintained its own diplomatic team, its own army, but they were under the control.
They had to
do everything the emperor said.
They had to go to Prussia before they made any decisions or anything.
Exactly. So now Ludwig's ambitions as a powerful leader were destroyed.
Do you think he really had that many ambitions to be a powerful leader?
No, but if he did have any,
it was definitely a hit to his confidence.
Yeah,
100%.
And then Ludwig is looking around. He's like, okay, fine. I'm just going to take all my toys, go home, and build some really pretty castles.
And he did. Oh my god, guys, these castles are so pretty.
Yeah, pretty is an understatement. Yes. They were dripping in decadence.
The hills are alive. I'm sorry, these pictures
still
in the
there.
outline. With those mountains in the back.
Oh my god,
honey.
They had, the castles had I think it was Lindenhof, had trapdoors at the kitchen table. And
I read about that. There was a trapdoor under the dining room table.
And it was a table for one. So it was only for him.
And if he didn't feel like talking to the help, he would just ring a bell and the trapdoor would bring the table down so the help would put more food and wine and stuff on the table and then raise it back up.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to be bring me my wine. He was just table down. And then magically it reappears.
I am loving his bouginess, by the way. So these castles that we're about to talk about, he felt it was a way to make his legacy live on despite not being, the most successful leader. But guess what? He was right. These castles are beautiful and did live on.
Yes.
So the first castle that we're going to talk about is Neuschwanstein Castle.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
This was the inspiration for the iconic Disneyland castle.
And I mean, y'all, just look at a picture. You're like, oh, yeah, that's Cinderella's castle.
Yeah, don't try to Google Neuschwanstein. Google Sleeping Beauty Castle inspiration, something like that, and that will give you the Neuschwanstein because it's actually modeled after Sleeping Beauty's castle.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, same thing.
I'm an adult. I'm an adult person. I don't know what castle belongs to what princess. I'm sorry.
Historically, castles are supposed to be built in like a strategic location for warfare to like defend your
No,
country.
this is just in the hills and it's pretty.
Yep.
And this castle is there to be pretty.
And this castle was an ode to his fuckboy Richard Wagner.
Of course.
And it was all things medieval, all things decadent, and oh yeah, more swans.
Obviously. How can you possibly have a castle without swans?
So the quote-unquote architect for this castle was actually a theatrical designer. Like a set designer. I
am not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but like it's funny that he got a theatrical designer instead of an architect.
Yeah.
So obviously the money isn't an issue for him.
It is for everyone else in the country being like, hey, we need that. We don't need more castles.
He just wanted to keep it gay. The next castle we're going to talk about is Lindorf Castle, which was the place that Ludwig did spend most of his time and was the only palace that he lived to see completed.
And this is the one that was modeled after Versailles, correct?
Yes, there's two that are modeled after Versailles.
Oh,
this one.
I need two Versailles.
Yeah, exactly. This one was located only 12 miles away from Neuschwanstein. So again, strategery not important.
Strategery not important.
Yes. I just like it pretty. So remember whenever I said he modeled himself like Louis XIV? Yeah. It was modeled after
a smaller Versailles. Yeah.
There was a man-made lake he would row around in a gilded shell.
Let me guess. Were there swans in the lake?
Oh my god, probably. And this is like giving me Little Mermaid vibes. It incorporated electricity down there. Like it's one of the few castles that actually has like an electrical grid. Palaces also had like indoor heating and things like that. Like it was modernized.
So the country's like, yeah, so we're recovering from a war, but you have toilets.
And electricity and heating.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add insult...
It's not like he needed these castles.
No, he didn't.
It's not like he just wanted a distraction from losing power.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what he wanted. And this little smaller scale Versailles really
Baby Versailles
didn't really make his Marie Antoinette heart pitter-patter. Like, he needed more. He needed something bigger and better than Versailles.
He wants the world.
He wants the whole world.
Yes.
So he built an even bigger Versailles. And this time, I mean, it was bigger than Versailles.
Have you ever been to Versailles?
Yeah.
That place is ginormous.
His Hall of Mirrors is bigger than the one in Versailles.
Oh, damn.
His bathtub was way bigger than anyone at Versailles. Like, they said it took 8 hours to fill it up and heat it. It could fit 30 people. Like, you could swim in
so
that
it
thing.
Wasn't a tub.
It was a pool.
Why not just call it a pool? Yeah.
And so
during wartime.
Yeah, and Ludwig is starting to spend all of his money, his family's money, on these castles. And he's not really doing any of that important kinging. So his uncle, the crown prince at the time, is Leopold. And he's having to...
Crown prince means like heir apparent.
Yes,
yeah.
heir apparent.
Okay.
Same thing. So he's having to stand in at the government functions and make all these important decisions.
Because Ludwig is just digging deeper into himself.
Yeah.
Like he is just going further into his hermit crab.
Yeah.
And just wants to be at these 3 extravagant castles that he's built by himself.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have any close friends.
Nope.
He doesn't have a wife. He isn't really close with Wagner anymore. It's just him and his servants that he doesn't even want talking to him when they serve him. And this is when the rumors start spinning that he thinks when he's having these extravagant dinners by himself, in his mind, he thinks he's hosting Louis XIV.
Hey y'all, spooky season is here. And if you're looking for a show to whet your appetite for a little haunted history, then I'd like to invite you to check out Southern Gothic, a chart-topping history podcast that explores some of the most infamous legends, folklore, ghost stories, and hauntings of the American South. We've covered all sorts of stuff from the Bell Witch of Tennessee to the disappearance of the Confederate submarine, the H.L. Hunley, not to mention our deep dives into the local lore of some of America's oldest and most haunted cities, like New Orleans, Charleston, and St. Augustine. So, if you're ready for a little good old-fashioned Halloween storytelling with a commitment to quality historical research, then be sure to check out Southern Gothic today. It's available now on all your favorite podcast apps.
Everybody shush! William Shatner has something to say.
Cat and Jethro, box of oddities.
What do you do when the woman you love dies? Well, of course you dig her up and you live with her.
Aww.
The show examines weird things.
There are plenty of old photographs from this time period of children out in the streets playing in and among the dead horse carcasses.
Oh, I miss those days. Things used to be so much simpler.
Cat and Jethro.
Then there's the urine wheel, which sounds like a really bad game show.
Thing done weird things. Cat and Jethro, box of oddities. That is really mysterious.
Join Cat and Jethro Gilligan Toth for the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected, as they lift the lid and cautiously peer inside the Box of Oddities.
The Webby Award-winning Box of Oddities podcast from Airwave Media.
Ludopold sees Ludwig spending all his family's money, so needless to say, he's pissed.
Well, yeah, wouldn't you be?
Yeah, he knows he has to get rid of Ludwig because Ludwig is now not only spending all of his money, he's starting to take out massive loans to start covering his buildings. I saw on a documentary that it would be equivalent to $390 million today in total debt.
In today's
Total,
money,
yes.
not $390 million
today's
then.
money.
In today, so that was basically the net worth of the entire country.
Yes.
What the
so
fuck?
that's not a good thing. Ludwig would go to extreme measures to try and get the money back, and Bavaria is obviously scared that they're going to go broke.
Well, again, that's not unfounded.
No,
That's
it's not.
That's
It's
a
absolutely
real
not.
concern.
Yes. And Ludopold is like, okay, I need a plan. So in Bavaria, the king has the choice to fire off his cabinet and hire new members. Well, guess what? His cabinet has that same power to abdicate the king and throw him out. So Ludopold needed to have the king deposed before he got any suspicion of what was going on.
Yeah.
So Ludopold hired on 4 psychiatrists to evaluate Ludwig. And by evaluate, I mean they paid off former servants.
Yeah, because they never, it's not like Ludwig sat for them.
No.
And had sessions with them. They were just like, hey, here's some rumors about him. Would you say that's something a crazy person? Do you think a crazy person would dine by himself?
And they paid him off, too.
Oh, yeah,
They
definitely.
gave him money. And they never, there were stories that he dined with the imaginary friends, Louis XIV. He demanded people to scratch on doors instead of knocking on the door.
That's weird.
And when addressing him, you couldn't speak. You had to, play charades to get him to guess what you were saying.
Well, that sounds fun.
So, who knows if any of this is actually true, but I think it could be explained that without saying that he's crazy. I think this is just him, his eccentric, weird, right-brained personality.
Yeah. Or who knows?
Yeah.
I find with history, the crazy rumors that come down through the centuries, I feel like there's the people that say these are absolutely true and the people that say that this is an absolute lie. I feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle.
It's a gray area.
It's always somewhere in the middle. So I don't believe that he was schizophrenic or anything like that. I don't disbelieve that maybe he did kind of live in his own alternate reality.
So what I think a psychologist would diagnose him as having a dissociative personality disorder, where you you aren't yourself, you're this other person, and you break yourself. He wasn't real. He had these weird behaviors. He would act different in front of different people. He was just dissociating from who he really was and just pretending that everything's okay and he's in his own little world. Because if anybody brings his own little world down, his whole world's going to crash.
Yeah.
So he's just dissociated.
I mean, it doesn't make a good king.
No, he wouldn't. He should have been an artist.
But I feel like they could have found a better way to depose him. But there was a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
So I don't like what the people did, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah, I understand too. So on June 10th, 1886, a group of asswipes go to depose the king. 2 of those asswipes are the psychiatrists who did their quote-unquote research. And Ludwig was actually tipped off on this, and his guards end up turning the asswipes away, and then they later end up arresting those people, but that didn't last long because the government ended up sending out one of those formally worded emails that said, Ludwig isn't king anymore.
Ye old email.
Ye old email. So Ludwig...
I think they called it newspaper back then.
Yeah. So literally the next day, Ludwig sends out a statement on June 11th to Bavaria saying, my uncle's a bitch. He's trying to take my shit. I'm not crazy.
Oh.
And
it's a lot of the common people still really liked him.
They still really did. And so for his uncle was like, oh shit, he's calling for uprisings. Yeah. This isn't good. Like, this is a threat of combat. So Uncle Traitorface is fucking nervous. And Uncle Traitorface has
Traitorface. It sounds like Uncle Trader Joe's.
Uncle Trader Joe's. He has all of these flyers and newspapers that have the statement. He has them all destroyed. So Ludwig would later send out a letter over his last few days. And he wrote it to Ludwig Ferdinand, which was his cousin. Mm-hmm. And it said, most beloved cousin, forgive the bad scripture. I'm writing this in haste. Today I find myself confronted by 2 of my ministers who tried to obtain my abdication. This is a most disreputable conspiracy. Who is behind this? I don't know, but I presume it to be Prince Leopold.
Duh.
Keep all of this temporary to yourself, but please endeavor to find out what you can from the people you trust. I've heard rumors of my sickness, and these are all falsities solicited from people by ways of payment, and not one word is true. We must shine a light on
fake
this
news
with rock-solid trust and deep love. Your cousin Ludwig. And to me, that's a very lucid statement.
Yeah, no, it's not. It doesn't seem like it was something that was written by someone
who has schizophrenia,
who comes and goes,
who'd be like, Satan's trying to kill me. Let's destroy Satan because Satan's trying to kill me.
But also, I don't know, and I guess we could go back and forth forever, and I'm sure many scholars have, that was a time, he was lucid, but that doesn't mean he was always lucid.
Always lucid, correct. Yeah. So on June 12th, a day later, a second commission is sent to go and have him formally arrested.
And this time it succeeds.
Yeah, and Ludwig was quoted when they were taking him away as saying, how can you declare me insane? After all, you've never seen me or examined me before. Except that was in German. But he's basically just saying...
Thank you for clarifying.
He's basically saying, how the fuck do you know I'm crazy? You've never talked to me.
Well, yeah, that's what he told the doctors. He was like... You gave me this diagnosis, but this is the first time we're meeting. Like,
yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
How can you diagnose me?
So Ludwig was then transported to Berg Castle, where he would literally spend the last day of his life. And it was just a day after he was arrested. And Ludwig requests to go to Mass that night, and he was denied.
That's weird, because... What's the point in denying someone Mass?
Yeah. That was weird to me. That's a little red flag. And after dinner on June 13th, Guden and Ludwig go on a stroll together.
And Guden is his doctor.
Guden is one of the asswipes that was a psychiatrist that, like...
was sent there to, like, basically babysit him.
Yes.
Yes.
And nobody knows who set up this walk. Some people say that it was Ludwig's suggestion to go on a stroll. Some people say it was Guden's suggestion to go on a stroll.
But Guden definitely told the guards not to come.
Yeah, he told all of his, like, little assistants, hey, don't follow us.
Or, like, some people say that he said, follow us but stay far behind.
Yes.
Which, like, I don't think anybody would think anything of, because he's a psychiatrist or psychologist. He's with someone that everyone's saying crazy. Maybe it could easily be like, we're going on a walk just to talk about shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've got a lot on my mind and you're a psychologist. Let me unload my mind to you, you know?
Yeah. So here's the government's rendition of what happened on the little stroll that they had. So they go on a little stroll, and spoiler alert, they end up dead. Both of them. And Gudin's body, when they found it, was scratched up, and he was missing a fingernail. And
so that appears like signs is trying to fight back.
Struggle.
Yeah.
Yes. And that fingernail that he lost was found on Ludwig's coat. So he may have been fighting with Ludwig.
Yeah.
And so apparently what happened was Ludwig was pissed that he was being forced to abdicate.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he should kind of be. And he got into a physical altercation with Gudin. Hence the scratches, the missing fingernail, yada yada. Ludwig ended up drowning Gudin in the water and was just so distraught with what he did to Gudin that he drowned himself.
Okay, so I don't buy that he drowned himself because it was 4 feet of water.
Yeah.
And it is hard to commit suicide by drowning if you don't have something like weights.
Weighing you
or
down.
Something to, because very sad story, someone that Nathan and I went to high school with died in really weird circumstances, and her body was found in shallow water. And that was my first thought. It was like, oh, did she kill herself? And a good friend of hers was like, how do you kill yourself in like 3 feet of water?
Yeah,
like,
that'd be very difficult to do.
Yeah, like you don't, you would need like a weighted vest or something to like hold you under. And so like, you know,
Yeah,
so I don't buy that he committed suicide. I also don't buy that he committed suicide because he was Catholic. And
that you don't do that. You're going to hell if you do that.
Yeah.
That's what they believe. And also, like, if you're plotting to kill somebody to escape, why would you just all of a sudden be so distraught that they're dead and then kill yourself?
Yeah, it doesn't make any
sense. It
sense.
just doesn't, like, the logic behind it doesn't make sense. And so, obviously, I don't fucking believe this story.
I don't believe that story at all.
And here's why. The water the bodies were found in, like we said, was too shallow. Ludwig's body was found face up. And he was...
I breathe out of the back of my head.
Yeah, and he was an avid swimmer.
Yeah.
So, didn't make sense. He wouldn't have drowned himself floating on his back. Also...
And you don't just completely turn over naturally.
No.
Yeah.
Also, like, when you drown and your body will sink because your
lungs are full of
water.
Yeah.
And it isn't until the body starts like decomposing that it starts to float again. They found the body the next day.
Yeah.
So he would have been submerged under the water.
Absolutely.
Doesn't make sense to me. And they did an autopsy. And
quote unquote.
Yeah.
Autopsy.
Yeah, and the autopsy was so vague and it didn't give a cause of death. They were literally just like, I don't know. I guess he drowned. And it was like,
so shady. Even for the 19th century.
Yeah,
like they had better science then.
Agreed. And what's funny is I read this in an article that the daughter of one of the doctors who performed the autopsy said that on her dad's deathbed, he told her that the autopsy was faked.
Shocker.
So
surprised.
Another shocker, the government to this day will not let people look at his bones. Because you could see certain...
You could maybe find something,
and,
or... Yeah.
Yes. So here's what I think happened. Ludwig and Gudin went on a stroll. Ludwig tried to he got in a physical altercation with Gudin, and Ludwig and Gudin fight it out, and the guards that were behind them, like you said earlier, that were following behind them, they saw this and saw Ludwig trying to escape. I think Ludwig did kill Gudin. Like, he tried to kill him to escape, but the guards saw him trying to escape, and then they shot him and killed him.
Well, some people, like, across the lake or whatever, said that they heard shots that night.
Yes, and there was also a diary from an old fisherman who said that he was trying to help Ludwig escape that night whenever he was shot by the guards. And then many years later, there was this swanky countess whose name I'm not going to fucking try to say because it's like...
Josephine von Rubiconson.
There you go, Rubiconson. Yeah, that's like Wisconsin, except Ruba.
Can't be right. Can't possibly be right.
So this swanky countess would show off this coat that she had that was handed down to her that had 2 bullet holes in it, and she claimed it was Ludwig's.
But it has also since been destroyed.
Yep, and so which is
possibly also in World War II.
Agreed.
Because nothing good came out of World War II except for all the many movies and books that are very good.
And this is why I also think that the government won't let us look at his bones still, because if you were shot, there may be some scars on the bones, and you'd be able to see. And some people even say that Cece tried to help him escape it.
No, I heard that too, that Cece sent a boat to be like...
And this was the fisherman.
Yeah.
This was the coup.
Cece sent a boat to be like, come on, get in the boat. I'll bring you to Austria. You'll be safe here. And when Gudin saw that, that's when the altercation started.
Yep.
And then I guess the boat just fucked the fuck off because...
There's gunshots and the person you're supposed to pick up is dead.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I tried.
Never mind. Bye.
Another likely possibility of what happened is Ludwig just totally whooped Gudin's ass.
I mean, he was very athletic and he was young.
And tall.
Yeah.
And killed him and then tried to escape by swimming across the lake. Well, the water's kind of cold.
Yeah.
So that might not be a good idea. So they're saying that this hypothesis is that he died of a heart attack, hypothermia, something like that, where he tried to escape but died.
Okay, so was it... I'm not great with Bavarian geography, but it would have been a lake, not ocean, right?
Yes.
I don't think the lake water would have been cold enough.
It was 12 degrees Celsius, and I don't think that's cold enough, which is, I think, a little above 50.
Yeah, I don't think that's cold enough to give you a heart attack if you're a healthy young man.
That's my problem with that
Now,
theory.
if it was big water, ocean water, as our president likes to say, maybe ocean water
and you know what?
Can get fucking freezing.
Maybe it was Nessie.
You think Nessie came from Scotland? Maybe.
We're just putting on some real tinfoil hats today.
Queen's Podcast, you heard it here first. The Loch Ness Monster killed Ludwig II of Bavaria.
Ludwig was murdered by Nessie. Changed my mind.
You know what? Nope, that's my new the official opinion of Queen's Podcast.
So, no matter what you think, do your own research. It's really fascinating to think about whether he committed suicide or was murdered. Either way, he's dead.
He be dead.
And on June 19th, 1886, Ludwig had his last bougie event. His funeral. At his funeral, he was holding a posy of white jasmine that was given to him by Empress Cece, which makes me tear up a little.
But also so gay.
Yeah. He was dripping in jewels a la guanza, honey. It was in the style of the Royal Order of St. Hubert, which, Google it, it's just fancy Jesus jewels. It's just super fancy Jesus jewels.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
His body was laid to rest at Michael's craft shop in Munich. No, but really, I'm going to try to say this.
It does kind of look like Michael's craft shop.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I think he would have loved that.
Yeah, he would have.
Actually, you know what? Hobby Lobby has better craft material, but because of their politics...
Yeah, Michael's all
I don't know. I think he would have wanted a Party City or something.
Party City, yes! So his body was laid to rest at Michael's Skirch in Munich.
Probably how it's said. Nailed it.
But wait, guys. There's more. You remember in our CC episode, that little creepy heart thingy that they did?
Yeah, where they cremated all the hearts of the leaders of the countries.
So they took his heart out, put it in an urn, set it next to his dad and grandfather's in the Chapel of Mercy.
Don't let them do that to me, Nathan.
No, to me neither.
Yeah.
I mean...
I just assume we're going to die together. I don't know.
So let's talk Ludwig's legacy.
Okay.
A century after he died, people still refer to him as the Mad King, which I think is a little unfair, maybe a little homophobic, just kind of scared of this extravagant...
Was he eccentric?
Yes.
Was he as quote-unquote mad as some other people in his family?
No. He was raised a lonely-ass kid, no friends, who had to learn how to entertain himself, which led to a lot of these eccentric behaviors. And although he didn't really succeed at running a strong and powerful government, He did give us some fucking stunning architecture and castles.
Those castles are on my bucket list now.
Yeah, and he funded the arts and education. So honestly, his legacy still lives on today, and we wouldn't have these beautiful castles.
Yeah, and he's still
him.
a very popular figure in Bavarian history.
Yeah, so suck on that, bitches.
Suck on that, bitches. I think Ludwig would love that sentiment. Cheers to King Ludwig II of Bavaria.
Love you guys.
Mwah.